Hello, friends, and welcome. Welcome so much to this video on how to make the Lost Souls rectangular blanket. Here you will see how I made a queen size blanket using Red Heart Ombre in the shades of violet. You'll notice here that we start with a scallop bottom, which will take us to our middle section. And then you can see the scallops up here at the top of our blanket. The designer, Maryetta Roy, originally created the Lost Souls triangular shawl, and I asked for permission to make this into a rectangle blanket with the scallop edges, and she said yes. So thanks to her, and thanks to Red Heart Yarns for this blanket. So follow me in the making of this blanket, where we will have 3 parts. So let's get started. I'm super excited. The materials and the tools that we will be needing to make this Lost Souls rectangular blanket. I'm going to be using Red Heart Ombre in the color violet. We will be using a large eye tapestry needle. The hook that I have is an I9 5.5 millimeter pair of scissors, and we will also need to download the Lost Souls Skull Shawl designed by Maryetta Roy. She gave me permission to use her pattern so that we can make this blanket together. Let's get started. So after you download this pattern, we're going to be using it as a base to help with the design of the skulls and the shells itself. In the first page, you'll see abbreviations and how to make the beginning shell and a regular shell. We will not be using the double shell during this pattern. The double shell is part of the building of the shawl that is her pattern exactly. If you look through the separate pages of her pattern, each row shows what the picture will look like for when you do your stitching. We will use part of these. So to download, it will really be a good thing for you, so when you're not looking at the video that we're making here, you'll know where to refer to when you pick up your blanket after you have set it down. The next thing I wanted to point out was that the blanket is going to be made in 3 parts. Okay, so the top scallop will be 1 part, the middle section will be 1 part, and the bottom scallop will be 1 part as well. And please take note that the pattern is based on the triangular shawl pattern designed by Maryetta Roy, but not exactly her pattern. So we're going to start with the bottom scallop here. So let's get out our yarn and our hook and let's get started. Before we actually begin again, I wanted to point out that the ombre has various shades. The very bottom scallop roll row, you want to choose a particular shade that you want to start your blanket with. I'm choosing to start with the dark one. In the making of this, I bought 12 skeins of yarn for this. Another thing I should have pointed out to you is make sure your dye lot information is all exactly the same. But what I did was I picked one that had the dark in the middle that I was looking for so that I can build off of that to build the ombre look of my blanket. So now let's begin. So grab your hook and your yarn and let's get started. For this part 1 that we're going to be doing of the bottom scallop, I encourage you to start and finish with a 6-inch tail every time. The reason being is you'll need a good amount to hook your needle into and able to sew into the stitches to finish your ends off. So we're going to be starting with a magic circle. So you can go ahead and wrap around your fingers like this, go under the bottom loop and pull up your working yarn, and then finish as if you're doing a chain stitch. To me, this is I have a hard time with magic circles sometimes, but we can get them to work. Now take that first chain and kind of tighten up onto your magic circle. Then we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. And this will count as our first double crochet. To make our double crochet stitch, we place our finger on the loop on our hook, yarn over, go through the center of the magic circle, and pull up our working yarn. We now have 3 loops on our hook, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2, and that completes 1 double crochet. The next we're going to do is chain 1, and now we're going to do 2 double crochets into the magic circle. Here's 1, and then 2. To build on to our next, we're going to separate it with 2 chains. Then we're going to place 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. This is our shell throughout the entire blanket. So before we move on, we need to tighten our magic circle. Take your finger and thumb, the one that has your hook in it, and pinch lightly on the last 2 double crochets. With your other hand, grab the tail and pull on the ring until it closes up. You do not have to close it tightly, but it does need to come closed. Do not cut this. We will weave this in later. So let's move on to row 2. So let's chain 3 and turn our work. We're going to skip the first 2 double crochets, and in that chain 1 space we're going to place our shell. 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. Now we're going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We're going to skip the 2 double crochets, the chain 2, and 2 double crochets, and into the next chain 1 space we're going to place our shell. And this completes row 2. Moving on to row 3, we're going to chain 3 and turn our work. In that first chain 1, we're going to do our shell. And then chain 3, and now onto the chain 7 we're going to place 7 double crochets over that chain. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now let's chain 3, and then we're going to shell in our chain 1 space. Remembering that it's 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. All right, and this completes row 3. All right, let's move on to row 4. We're going to start with a chain 3 and turn our work. And in our first chain 1 space, we're going to place our shell, remembering that it's 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet. Chain 3. Okay, so now in the first double crochet, which is right here, we're going to go into the left side of this post and place 1 single crochet, chain 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then we're going to skip all the way across to the very last double crochet. Here's the post, so on the left hand side, I'm right-handed. We're going to place a single crochet. So this is what we have. You can see we have the opening of the mouth, chain 3, And then skip those 2 double crochets, and in that chain 1 we're going to shell. All right, and this completes row 4. On to row 5, and this will be the last row for our bottom scallop. We're going to start off with a chain 3 and turn our work. And in our first chain 1, place our shell. Okay, and then we're going to chain 3. Now here's our single crochet from our previous row. We're going to place a single crochet into that. Over our chain 7, we're going to do 7 single crochets. Here's number 5, number 6, and number 7. Now if you have a little bit of space open, I encourage you to spread your stitches out, and that'll help fill it in the way it's supposed to be. Then for our last single crochet, place 1 single crochet. So in theory, you're actually doing 9 single crochets across for right here. All right, chain 3, and we're going to do our shell. 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet. Okay, and this completes row 5 and the bottom scallop. Now, you notice that I didn't do anything here yet. I'm encouraging you to leave a 6 to 8 inch tail, and then go ahead and cut your yarn and then pull it through. Now, before we move on, this is to help you to determine what, whoops, I pulled it off, didn't I? This will help you to determine what size blanket you have. Now mine from end to end measures 6 inches. I'm doing 10 of these bottom scallops for my blanket. But you got to remember, in the pattern there's also another face here on the other side. So, but the width of the blanket will be the width of your scallops. So if you would like a 60-inch blanket, then you'd want to do 10 scallops. If you would like to do a baby blanket, you may want 4 or 5 scallops. The choice is yours. So I'm going to encourage you to repeat this for however many scallops you would like to have on the bottom. That would be the width of your blanket. I'll see you in a few minutes to show you what I have done. No, you don't see 10 little scallops there. There is 8. I have 2 more to do, but I was so excited I just had to show you. So you'll notice that each one of these have long tails. So before we move on, we want to take each one of these tails and weave them in. I know you're thinking, oh no, I don't want to do that. It's not as bad as you think it is. So let's go ahead and thread our needle. Now the first one that I'm doing is the magic circle. So to do that, we want to go around that magic circle one more time. And you're probably thinking, well, why didn't I start with a double wrap magic circle? Because sometimes it can have a mistake in it. And we don't want frustration here. Crochet is relaxing and enjoying, and we want to keep enjoying it. So go around it twice. Don't snug it too tight, but just enough so that the pattern will lay flat and look like it's supposed to be. Okay? Then from on the back side, we're going to go up. We've already gone twice around. Now this time we're going to weave in our ends. So go through as many of the back part of that double crochet as you can. Then go over one stitch of yarn and then go back. The reason why we go over one is because if you go back through the same hole, it could weave itself out. So you notice how here it didn't pop back out. Then we're going to do that one more time. Okay, and then stretch it just a little bit. You'll notice that this yarn will go back inside just a little bit. Then we want to take our scissors and don't cut it too close, but cut it maybe 1/8 of an inch away. And that'll give it a chance to meet with the playing around with everything. Okay, so here our magic circle's done. Now for the end of the row here, okay, try weaving behind a few of the stitches to make it look like a part of the stitch, and then go behind or into the middle of those double crochets onto that shell. Okay, don't pull it too tight, but pull it so that it'll meet the tension of your stitch. Then go over one and through the back of all those double crochets. Okay, and then go over one and through what's there. And we're going to do it one more time. So we're actually going to have 3 weaves, 3 parts of this woven. Okay, and you can pull your needle down. Now work with it a little bit. Okay, and then as before we're going to cut it probably just about 1/8 of an inch above. Okay, and that'll give it a chance to weave back or wiggle back in if it needed more. So here is one finished. Do this to the rest of them, and I'll meet you in the next part of the Lost Souls rectangular blanket. After you have sewn in all your ends, this completes part 1. I hope to see you in part 2.